Okay, now let's get used to this 3D environment. This is a representation of a 3D world. So like if you will be working in real life, the objects are placed in different locations in a 3D area. So here also this is our 3D area and we have infinite space. Fine, so if you have done basic coordinate geometry or something, most of the things on a plain paper are denoted by X and Y, 2 points. In 3D they are denoted by 3 points, that is X, Y and Z. And to get our location and understanding where we are, we need a central point of reference. So over here in Blender, the center point is 0 comma 0 comma 0. This red line which you see is our x-axis, green line is y-axis, and the z-axis, which does not show up usually, is up and down. Fine, so like if you will be working with simulation or gravity, so gravity goes downwards. Fine, there is a gravity pull over here. So this is the reference 0 0 0, and with this reference our objects are placed in different locations. So the 0 0 0 is our starting point, and this grid is useful for getting an understanding, like to say that this is the upper part and this is the lower part or something like that. Fine, so this is a grid for reference. The grid can be scaled and other things for different purposes, but let's just leave it as it is right now. Let's not get into the details. So now the first thing that we need to get used to in Blender is that how to do these kind of operations, like I'm moving the scene around here, because in a 3D environment, in a real life environment, you would actually you would be able to move around the object, right, when you are working, or you could rotate a object. When you move around the object, you are not changing the orientation of the object, which means if the object is facing here in X or Y direction, it remains like that. So right now I'm moving around the object, and if I rotate the object, then the orientation of the object is changing. Fine, so how to do these basic operations? This is the very basic thing that you need to be able to do in Blender. Now to be able to do this comfortably, you usually would require a mouse, something like this, which has two buttons and a scroll button which is clickable. Fine, working with mouse becomes much more easier, and you need a keyboard, and if your keyboard supports this numeric keypad, it is going to be helpful. Fine, so if you have a numeric keypad, that is going to be a useful part to navigate around. Apart from that, one more thing to remember is that we can do a lot of things in Blender directly by giving commands from the keyboard. That means small things can be directly given from the keyboard. Like if I press X, the selected thing could be deleted. Fine, so I can delete this object. Control Z can bring it back, things like that. So that you have to remember. One more important aspect to remember is whenever you are giving commands, your cursor should be in a related area or window. If the cursor is in a different area and you try to run that command, it can have a different effect. So you have to be careful. Or sometimes when you are trying to run that command, like if I place it here and or it is here, I press X, it's not going to work. But if I press X over here, it will run the delete for the selected object. Fine, so this point is to be remembered, that the cursor has to be in a suitable area over here. Okay, now the first thing that we need to do is any selected object that we are going to work with should be the center of attraction. That means it should not be on left or right side. So usually if your scene is moved or here anything, you can select the object and press the dot from the numeric keypad. Fine, and this will become in the center so that you can easily work on it. Fine, like suppose this is the camera which is shown over here. If I press dot, this becomes the center. It becomes easier to work. Fine, now you might have noticed I am zooming in, zooming out. Now zoom in, zoom out is not about changing the size of the object. Zoom in and zoom out is achieved by the scroll wheel. Fine, so if you scroll in and out, the object will zoom in or zoom out. So zoom in, zoom out can be achieved with this, or you can zoom in, zoom out with the plus and minus keys of the numeric keypad. Fine, plus and minus key of the numeric keypad. Then if you are missing all these things, you can click on this hand icon over here. Not the hand icon, this lens type icon. you just click and drag your mouse over here, so you can still achieve zoom in and zoom out from that. Fine. So that takes care of zoom in zoom out part, how we can zoom in zoom out into objects. Simpler is from the scroll button of our mouse. Next operation that you might want to do is that you might want to orbit around the object or move around the object. So how it can be done is you have to use the middle mouse button, that is usually your scroll. Click on the scroll and move your mouse. So if you are moving left to right, you will get a orbit effect. That means you will orbit around the object which is selected and centered. Or you could use the keys 4 and 5 from your numeric keypad. Fine. Keys 4 and 5 from your numeric keypad. They also are the arrow keys. Numeric keypad, keep that in mind. Or 8 and 2 for this kind of orbiting around the object. Fine. So we can achieve orbiting by either clicking and keeping it clicked, the middle mouse button, and dragging our mouse in any of the directions. You can orbit and look at your objects in a suitable view. So this is how we can orbit. If none of this is making sense to you, then you can use this hand icon to move around, but this is not going to orbit, it will just move the object around. So how do we orbit? So to orbit, you see this interesting gizmo around here. Fine. This gizmo basically has XYZ axes. It has some interesting uses, but we will just click and drag around it. Fine. So this way you can orbit around with this particular gizmo which is over here. What is the other use of the gizmo? We will discuss in few moments. So this is done. The last activity that we need to see here is this called as the camera view. So obviously when we will be working with our 3D models or anything, and you want to show the output to your friend, it's like some you are working on something and you want to show it to your friends, then obviously you will click a picture from your mobile camera and send it to your friends. So the view which you are getting is your perspective view or your view, and the person to whom you want to send the output will be from the camera. So there is usually a camera placed for you already. You can add more cameras, but what is visible through this camera and what we are seeing could be different. So you can just check out, click on the camera, and you are inside the camera, or this what it shows is how or what will be shown if you click a photo, or in our terms we call it if you render this. So this is how you can see the camera. You can click on the camera icon again to come out of it, or if you just simply move around, you will be out of the camera view. The keyboard shortcut is 0 from the numeric keypad, so you can go in and out of the camera from the 0 key. It's a toggle key. You can switch between cameras. So that is the basic of moving around. Fine. Orbiting around the objects, zoom in and zoom out, and this operation, yes, which I did not discuss, this is called as a pan operation, which is you can like just move around in left and right to the object. If you want to achieve that from your keyboard, fine, so you press the middle mouse button, keep it pressed, and if you drag, this usually results in a orbit thing. If you press shift along with this, fine, you press shift and then click the middle mouse button, then you can have this particular one. Fine. So this is the basic interaction that you can use in Blender in your 3D view area, so that you can easily work around with your objects.